We are Chesterfield through and through. From Brampton to Staveley. From Hasland to Newbold. We are Spire Radio.
Good afternoon. You're listening to Spire Radio with Destination Chesterfield and Chesterfield Champions. Each week we speak to the people behind our brilliant town who live, work or run a business here. Every one of them has a story to tell which will either make you smile, laugh or cry, or even all three. Stay with us for the next hours. We speak to Guy Tomlinson, and he's from SEO CoPilot, which probably doesn't mean much to many of our listeners. So Guy is here to tell us what. Tell us the basics of SEO, which I believe is search engine optimization.
It is. I think to understand SEO, you have to understand what a search engine is and what a search engine does. Imagine it's a library. If you go to a library and the library had 1,000 books, and you know the library had a book that you wanted, but when you got to the library, all these books were in the middle of the floor on a pile, not organised. Mm-hmm. You'd never be able to find what you're looking for. So basically, because there's over 3 trillion web pages on the internet.
3 trillion?
3 trillion, yeah, it's quite a few.
Right.
So it needs a lot of sorting out. So basically what search engine is, it's a way of organising the web pages so they're easily found when you put a search into the search box in Google. I'll mention Google because it's 80% of the search market. So
it's the one we all use. It's even become one of those terms like hoovering your floor. You just Google it, don't you?
I think it's in the dictionary, isn't it, Google it?
Oh, is it? I wouldn't be surprised.
Apparently so. So yeah, it's a way of organising the different web pages so they're easily found. So if a company's got a website, if they want to show up basically for organic searches when people are looking for, I don't know, an architect in Chesterfield, you want to show up for these organic searches that people are using to find services and products rather than just a company name. Because if they know your company name, they already know about you.
Mm-hmm. So for any business who has a website presence, I suppose they always talk about being number one, top of Google is the holy grail. And I know myself, I get a lot of emails from companies, many based overseas, saying they'll get me to number one Google for princely sum of £99. Will they?
No, unfortunately not. I get about 5 or 6 of those a day myself.
Oh, so it's an SEO company?
Yeah. So they've not really put much thought into it, have they? It just can't be done. It's just make believe. It's like Narnia. It doesn't exist.
Or they could get you to the top of Google for something completely obscure.
Yeah, they could tell you that they've got you for certain key phrases or terms, but if nobody's actually using those terms to find businesses like yourself, it's going to be no use. And to be honest, the amount of work there is these days in search engine optimization, you just couldn't do the amount of work needed for $99 or pounds a month. It's just not going to happen.
So tell me, what does SEO, search engine optimization, what are you doing behind the scenes to websites or whatever?
Well, basically, Google looks to, when somebody puts some keywords or key phrases into the search box, Google tries to return the best return for the query. And what I mean by that is that the most relevant web page for whatever somebody's put in. So search engine optimization, what we try and do is make the website and the web page as relevant for the terms that you need to show up for as possible. So if it was landscape gardener in Chesterfield, it's no good if that's your business and you're in Chesterfield and those terms aren't anywhere on the website, it's not going to show up because why would it be? It's not relevant. So you have to build the entire website around certain keywords and phrases. There's a lot more to it because Google takes into consideration over 200 different signals when Wow, indeed, it's a lot. So the search algorithm just does it automatically. Algorithm.
That's the word that I haven't heard since school. What does that mean?
It's basically just a mathematical equation that Google's got what they call Googlebot. It's a bit of software that goes and scans every single page on the internet. Once it's scanned it, it works out using the algorithm these 200 different signals as into how important that page will be for that specific term.
Is it almost like a tick box exercise?
Yeah,
So
it's
like
lots of
ticking,
different ticks. So if you get enough ticks for particular keywords, then you'll show up when people search for that. You're more important. There's two different parts to SEO as well. There's what they call on-site or on-page SEO and off-site or off-page SEO. So the on-site is basically the physical website, the code, the content, links, the structure, images, and then the off-site is basically your relationship on the internet. So how many other websites that are relevant link back to your website, and that can help you build higher because you're more important basically for that particular keyword.
Right. Okay. And how does the social media like Twitter and Facebook, does that help with your SEO and your Google presence?
Not when it first started, when social media first sort of started doing their rounds, but over the last few years it's got far more important because Google knows that basically nearly everyone uses social media of some form. So the way they do it is they look for social media indications. Now, what that means is that everyone uses social media. So if your website is important, Google would expect to see that your website is being shared socially and people are interacting with your page. Now, that gives more dynamic results. So the more important you are social media, the more important your website is dynamically. So it keeps it fresh.
So we're talking about like likes and followers and things like that.
Yeah, and the amount of time people actually share your URL, the address of your website.
Right. So if you're a business and you've got a website, getting to the top of Google is not a quick fix.
No.
Or easy, really.
No, not at all. It's going to take at least 3 to 6 months to scratch the surface, really, depending how competitive the niche is that you're trying to compete with.
And of course, the competitors out there, like the big brands, the big companies, they've got lots of money they can throw at it and pay people like you, teams of people like
me,
to constantly be doing stuff to tick every one of those 200 boxes.
That's right.
Ooh, now, don't want to dishearten people. We're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we'll be talking to Guy Tomlinson from SEO CoPilot some more about what you can do with your website to help it along with SEO.
Your community station for Chesterfield and North Derbyshire. This is Spire Radio.
Welcome back. I'm talking to Guy Tomlinson, who is from SEO CoPilot. So you've given us the lowdown on what SEO is, and it's not a simple quick fix. You started the business 6 years ago. How did you get into SEO?
That was through a friend of mine, actually, Mark Bonington, who's now a client still. Because he knows I've always worked on computers, I was interested in different things. He asked me to build a website for his business, but I had no clue how to build one.
That was a brave man, trusting you.
Yeah. So I looked at a few tutorials, etc., find out how to get a website template, and I basically built it and changed it and added some content for him. Now, a couple of weeks in, he starts giving me some grief that no one was ringing him and nobody was getting to him. So I said, I've no idea. So he says, well, find out for me. So I did. So I had a look around and found something called search engine optimization. So I started implementing some of the things that I read, and I just became really, really fascinated by it. And within a few months, we'd got him to the top of the search engines, and there was that much business, and he's done very well ever since.
Wow. People do feel a website can be the magic bullet, but it's not. If you have a website, it's not a case of creating it and just leaving it there, is it?
No. Unfortunately, as well, a lot of people will go to a web designer, and web designers are trained in how to design a website, but they don't always understand how to design one for search optimization. So it ends up just being a box of pretty pictures and text, which doesn't do a lot. But you have to then add fresh content through your blog, things like that. develop a campaign.
So it's constantly evolving, isn't it? How have you seen websites and search engine optimization change just in the last 6 years?
Oh, massively. Google have brought out more updates in the last couple of years than they have in the previous 10, developing all the time. And now the quality of a website has to be far, far higher than it did 5 or 6 years ago to get anywhere. Years ago, people could have a really poor-looking website with certain SEO techniques. It could be number one in Google, but now the quality of the website's got to be really good. The content on the website's got to be really good.
When you say content, do you mean the written words? Or?
Mainly the written words, yeah.
Right.
You look to put keywords in there. There used to be something called keyword stuffing, where people would just put the word that we're trying to rank for over and over again and manipulate it.
And I can remember that, searching for things on Google, and the website had come up, and it would be virtual mumbo jumbo, wouldn't it?
It was gobbledygook, most of it. There's none of that anymore. That won't rank, because there's also something called LSI, which is latent semantic indexing. Oh. So Google now understands the relationship between words. So it will know if something's been written to manipulate search engines or not, or written well.
Oh, okay.
So they're much brighter than they ever were.
So we're saying they are, but we're really talking about like robots and bots and things going out and find it's very sophisticated.
The Google bot.
The Google bot. And so if they find that you've keyword stuffed it and things like that, what does Google do to a website?
There's two things it can, two parts of the same thing. You can get what they call an algorithmic filter penalty. So that's just the software will pick up these bad points and your website will drop down. It'll get a penalty, so it'll drop lower in the rankings. Mm-hmm. That will then probably trigger a manual review at Google. So an actual person will check the website to see if they think that you've actually tried to manipulate to the rankings. And if they find you have, then you'll get a manual penalty, and it's incredibly difficult to get rid of those. And quite often people have to start again.
Oh, really?
Yeah, brand new website, brand new domain.
Oh, which I suppose if you're a long-established business...
can cost you a lot of money, yeah.
Wow. you said you had an interest in technology and computers and stuff. Had you worked in it beforehand?
No, just an interest.
So complete career change for me. Yeah. And at what point did you take that interest and go, I can make a business out of this?
When my friend said, will you build me a website?
Oh, and that was it. That was the trigger. Yeah, so you built the website, worked out SEO and thought, I'll start selling it.
Just got fascinated by it, really. And it stayed with me. I'm just as fascinated now, all these years on, because it's just developing, evolving all the time.
Well, I think as you said, like Google's always changing; it never stands still. Your business that's grown in the 6 years from just being new to how many do you employ?
There's 8 of us now, including copywriters. Fantastic team as well. Couldn't ask for a better bunch of people. Motivated and very talented as well.
And where do you recruit the team from? Are they local or further afield?
Usually local. We've got one lad that's an apprentice. A couple of lads that have come from the Chesterfield College. Mm-hmm.
And do you find the college like a good source of staff and training? Yeah,
definitely. The people that have come for me are really, really good, high quality, good people.
And it's a relatively new industry, isn't it? So do you find it is attractive to young people?
I think a lot more are getting interested in it now. These lads were actually at college for web design and games design and stuff like that. So came to do a little bit of extra work for me over holidays and things like that. And obviously now got a passion for the SEO because they just find it interesting. But it's not something really that's covered too much, I don't think, in college. It's covered, but to a smaller degree.
Probably with it being so new. It's always been around, but people are just beginning to understand the importance of it with a website, aren't they?
I think as well, because the SEO is forever evolving, forever changing, it's hard for people to actually teach it, because by the time they've got everything set up to teach, it's changed.
Does that make it difficult for you as a business, keeping up with this with it
Not
constantly
really,
changing?
because now I've got the knowledge that I've got, I just have to keep up to date, which is a far smaller task.
But it must be, when Google decides to change something, you've got to go with it, haven't you?
Yeah, the SEO industry does chat online and discuss what's happening and what people think of new updates and changes, etc., because everybody's figuring out what the changes are and how we need to change our approach.
And do you think this will be how it is for the foreseeable future? It's almost like everybody is dancing to Google's tune, isn't it?
I find it difficult to see anyone overtaking them in the near future, but I'm sure something will change at some point.
Right, we're going to take a short break. We'll be back in a bit to talk more with Chesterfield champion Guy Tomlinson from SEO CoPilot.
From the centre of Chesterfield, broadcasting around the world, we are Derbyshire's heartbeat. Spire Radio.
Hello and welcome back. I'm talking to Chesterfield champion Guy Tomlinson from SEO CoPilot. We're talking all things Google and SEO and websites, which if you like websites or you have a business, you'll be very interested in. But we were just talking during the break about you set up the business 6 years ago and you set it up in Chesterfield. And I said, well, you're from Sheffield originally. Why set up the business in Chesterfield? And your answer was?
Because I live in Chesterfield, but it makes no difference where I am. Because I can service clients anywhere around the world, because that's how powerful the internet is.
So, you say clients around the world. Where about? Which countries are you working with clients in? I've got
clients in the States, one in Canada, and obviously all around the UK.
So, how do the overseas ones find out about you? You're not offering them Google ranking services for £99, are you?
No, that's definitely not me. Some of those have been recommended, or likes of LinkedIn find you.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's basically recommendations or LinkedIn. It's good for.
And I suppose with it being the internet, which doesn't really have any boundaries, you can work anywhere for anyone, can't you?
Yeah, I can work for anybody. Doesn't matter where they are. We can have online meetings, video chats, etc., where we've got an online portal where we can discuss work between us, share ideas, share visuals of websites, etc., and people love it. Wherever they are, there's an app on the phone, so we can discuss between myself, the client, and my team, and work through the project. So it works seamlessly, so it doesn't really matter where they are.
So you're based down on Sheffield Road, the top of Sheffield Road, aren't you?
Yeah.
So you kind of, like you said, you could really be based anywhere, and your client meetings are all happening at your offices and they're happening online and everything. Is there one thing that Chesterfield could do that would benefit your business? I think it's good that you're having to think. It would signify that everything's
Either that or
done.
I'm slow. I can't think of anything offhand, really. Not specifically for my business, anyway.
Oh, that's always really good to know. How have you seen Chesterfield change in the... you've had the business here 6 years, but you've lived here 10 years, haven't you? How have you seen Chesterfield change in that time?
Well, it seems to be developing quite a bit from when I first came here. It took me a while to feel my feet in Chesterfield, but it's grown on me. I like the place, like the people, and it does seem to be growing. Seems to be a lot going on, developing. It seems like an up and coming town, so it's good. It's good to be part of it, really.
Do you work with many local companies?
I network quite a bit with different companies. I think everyone seems to stick together in Chesterfield, and small businesses do seem to help each other out. So.
It certainly is like a tightly knit community, isn't it?
Yeah.
Later this year, May the 25th to be exact, there are some data regulations coming in. So, I joked about these companies that spam you, offering to get you to the top of Google. But these new data regulations called GDPR, I believe, hopefully will stop this spamming and people emailing you randomly. Do you think this will have any effect on how you do business or your industry does business? Are we going to stop getting these emails?
Honestly, probably not. I think it'll cut it down a lot. I myself don't market that way. I think the only people that market that way in my industry are more the shady characters, like say $99 to get number one in Google. I don't market that way.
And if you're a startup business, so maybe you're struggling, that pops up in your inbox. Oh, we promise you this, we promise you that. It's very tempting.
Yeah. It's a shame because, but that's what I think that they're basically preying on. People that really can't afford a proper SEO campaign, £99 or dollars a month to get to number one, and all your worries are over. Sounds good. And also because a lot of small business owners don't understand SEO, some of the things that these companies put into their emails to scare you half to death, that this is missing from your website, this is broke, and that's wrong. Most of it's just cloud cuckoo land. It's not even real. They send it over to me about my site. I know my site's clean, so it just doesn't make any sense. But if somebody doesn't know, they can easily be taken into that. But it's just not going to do them any good, and a lot of times it can do them a lot of harm.
Oh, really?
Because
How?
if this company's not very good at what they do, you could actually get a penalty and end up nowhere and have to start again.
All right.
Which is a shame, yeah.
Your £99 can just be the tip of the iceberg, because I'm guessing they don't stop there. They want more and more money.
Yeah, they can often upsell. You want our premium package or our, titanium package or whatever, and it's only another £200. So people get drawn in and end up spending more money. But unfortunately, they just don't get anything from it. You need to speak to somebody that you can deal with, that knows what they're talking about, in the same language often as well. It's,
Yeah, rather than throwing the jargon in. Yeah. So if you have got a business, and because obviously you've said we've already gone through. Google's got a list of something like 200 criteria that websites need to meet. You've got a big team working with you doing this. Smaller businesses, startups can't afford to come to someone like you. Or a website designer, or, SEO, what would your piece of advice be to them as they're starting out on their business journey?
I would say they could build a website or get a fairly cheap website built on something like WordPress that is very user friendly. You don't need any coding knowledge. If they've got a business and they just need an online brochure, maybe like a DIY website will be good enough, just as a backup. So if you give somebody a business card, they can look online, look at your website, look at some of the jobs that you've done. Check you out. And if you need business from the internet, then you really need to go to somebody that knows what they're talking about. If you need to get inquiries from the internet, but if, like say, it's just going to be a brochure, then maybe a DIY would be good. But it's not the best format to move forward, because when you're ready to move up, you're probably going to have the whole thing rebuilt, which can be expensive. So sometimes it's better to start right.
I think many years ago when I started out, you got a website done and you just put it there and it sat there for years and years and years. But the internet moves at such a pace now that how often would you say that a company should be looking at their website and looking to, if not refresh it, do a new one?
Well, there's upkeep that you need to do weekly, daily on your website. There's an awful lot of work needs to be done these days, and fresh content needs to be going on at least bare minimum once a month. And what I would do is go to a website. You can just search for the best SEO basic sites. You'll find out the top 10. Just go and find the basics. Make sure you keep your website as clean as possible and just learn the basics of SEO. Make sure you've got Google Analytics installed. It's quite easy.
It's free, isn't it?
It's free, and you can find that. And Google Search Console. I'll not go too in depth, but people can find out about it online.
So even the basics of SEO is better than no SEO.
Yes, yeah.
And there are websites out there that have top tips and things like that.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, we're going to take a short break. We'll be back in a bit to talk more with Guy Tomlinson from SEO CoPilot.
Online 24 hours a day at www.spire-radio.com.
Welcome back. I'm talking to Chesterfield champion Guy Tomlinson from SEO CoPilot. That's an unusual name. How did you come up with it?
Well, it's funny actually. 6 years ago, when I was thinking what to call my business, I used to do video editing, which my son actually now does at college, and I used to follow a chap, and his company was called SEO CoPilot, and I always liked that name. I thought it was interesting. So then when I got into SEO, me and my son we were chatting over different things, what I should call it. And basically we decided to put it together and call it SEO CoPilot, because I like the co-pilot, we're there side by side with you all the way through. So that's how the name came about.
Oh, so side by side. How old's your son now?
He's 17 this March.
So is there any, do you think, can you ever see yourselves working side by side?
Possibly. It'd be entertaining. Yeah, I could see that in the future.
You can see it. Maybe he's not quite sure.
Maybe he can't see it, yeah. Maybe I'll be working for him.
Well, yeah, maybe. What's next for the business?
Well, we'll be expanding again next year.
You hope?
Yeah.
Or maybe later this year?
Yeah, maybe later this year as well. Client base is growing. Especially on the web development side as well, which is growing.
Yeah.
So yeah.
When you say web development, is that like taking a website from scratch and building it? Yeah,
either a website from scratch, or if it's an SEO client, we often have to rebuild and redesign the website, because it's not being built well enough to start with. It's like a family car trying to win the Grand Prix.
Right.
It's not going to happen.
You kind of got to get into that engine and tune it up and put some different tyres on it.
Yeah. So you've got to start from start from the foundations.
So you say taking on more people. What kind of roles are you looking for them to fill?
Web development, we're pushing forward. Lots of different aspects of the SEO. There's so many different jobs to do with that. And graphic design, we've got a great lad doing graphic design. So as that builds, he'll need some help as well. So we'll be looking for talent. I've got my eye on a couple of people, but also the college is a great source. Some great talent coming through the colleges.
And you were saying that you've got an apprentice who's currently through the college at the minute.
Yeah.
What about before youngsters leave school? Do you offer work experience?
We do. We've got a couple of work experience coming in the new year. I think it's really important to help kids these days. Yeah. Because work is completely different to college, so they need the experience. So I'm more than happy to take them on, help them, guide them. I like to see people grow and come up through the ranks, really.
And I suppose, relatively speaking, you are operating in quite a new industry, aren't you? Even though
relatively,
you've been going for a few years, but what?
Me personally,
the business. But these new industries, they kind of haven't filtered into the schools' career systems yet, have they? So while they're looking at the traditional jobs, your nurses, your doctors, and teachers, things like becoming a web developer and SEO programmer, would you be? What?
Don't know what.
SEO person. They're not really being addressed in schools.
No, I don't think they are. Even at the college, I know they do cover some SEO basics at college when they do the web design courses, but I don't believe they go too in depth, because SEO, there's no governing body, and SEO is developing and changing all the time. So it's going to be difficult for them to always be up to date and teaching the pupils, the latest techniques and how things should be done.
You said there's no governing body. Do you think there needs to be an element of regulation?
It's been tried before, but it never seems to happen. I don't think it ever can be.
What areas would be regulated if they could be, do you think?
Well, I think Google's self-regulating with its penalties. You do something wrong, you get penalised. But
it's very much Google's become a bit of bigger brother. They're kind of everything you do through Google, whether it's your email account or your website search or your social media, it's tracked you. I mean, you watch these programs. Hunted, where they go after the they try and go on the run, and they can just use their phones and their internet history to track their lives, can't they?
Google stores an awful lot of data on people, and also they know who you're related to, who you did with. They know names that you're associated with. They know what you've searched online. If you search for a new laptop in the morning, by the afternoon, if you go back on, there's laptop advertisement popped all over the place because they know you're already interested. So it's targeted marketing. So data's a big thing for Google.
If you wanted to escape that and go online anonymously, is it possible?
To a degree. There's a search engine called DuckDuckGo.
DuckDuckGo. As in quack, quack.
Yeah, one of those things. Yeah, that's it. And they don't monitor your searches. That's growing.
Will you still get the same kind of results?
The results aren't bad, to be fair. They're not bad at all. They're not as good as Google because I think they'll be difficult to catch Google, but they're not bad at all. So, maybe give that a go.
Have you used it yourself?
I shouldn't be saying that against Google, should I?
When all your
no
SEO
comment.
sites have disappeared tonight, they've been listening.
No comment.
What excites you about Chesterfield and developing your business here?
Just I like the place. It's growing. It's buzzing. The people that you meet, the small business owners that you meet, all seem to be quite passionate. Everyone seems to want to help each other out. It's a nice place. I'm looking forward to seeing where everything goes.
Couldn't say it better myself. Guy Tomlinson from SEO CoPilot, thank you very much for your time today.
Pleasure.
Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Spire Radio. Tweet us at Spire Radio Chess, or visit us online at www.spire-radio.com.